So for more perspectives and assessment on human rights under President Muhammadu Buhari's watch, we have a Senate Committee Vice Chairman on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, Senator Emmanuel Okajev, joining us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. As well as Honorable Cletus Obun, a former lawmaker. Both of them join us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Okajev, for your time. Well, I'd like to begin with Senator Okajev. I understand that, some data was released recently. In fact, poll figures by NOI polls, which says that police and government officials are the worst violators of human rights in the country, accounting jointly for about 55% of the cases. But then there's more. About 75% of Nigerians indicated that they don't actually report cases of human rights violation. Basically, only about 2 out of 10 Nigerians report human rights violations. So first, I need to know, these figures, do they resonate with some of the reports you're considering in your committee? Do they align with some of the data you have also seen in your committee? And how does it appear to you at this time?
Well, that's right. It's concerning to not just the committee, but the Senate as an institution at the rate, because if you look at the motions, some of the motions that come on the floor of the Senate, and I dare say the House too, it's very concerning that abuses, human rights abuses, in most cases, is perpetrated by people who are paid to protect the human rights of Nigerians. So those figures, you can't in all good conscience contradict them, and because they align with what we have, the motions that are coming, and some of those referrals to our committee. And we are looking into them, and it's a continuing concern. And because every week, at least a motion or two will come on the floor that will seek to address abuses of human rights, sadly from those who are saddled with the responsibility of protecting those same human rights of Nigerians.
All right, let me ask Honorable Cletus Obun. Now, yesterday being the International Human Rights Day, questions about the country's human rights ratings came up, especially the case of the convener of Revolutionary Protest, Mr. Moyele Sowore, and others in detention. And basically, the question is, people are worried, and they're asking, who's next? If it can happen to this person, maybe it will happen to me too. So the question is, surely we can do better, or do you think this is not a big concern?
Well, first, let me confirm to you that this is about 132 days. Agba Jalingo and Jodok are still in detention for treason against a state in Nigeria, a federating state in Nigeria. I want to hallmark that, and then also alert the world that the carnage in my local government bookie, which the president commented about, is something that I must dedicate this program to. Having said that, the human rights, especially as it concerns people like Sowore, is a dramatization and over-politicization of issues. There are human rights that are even more fundamental in the private sector than even governmental. The reason why the governmental part of it is always overblown or always in the forefront or the front burner is because governmental institutions and government and runners of government ought to protect, like the senator said, those who ought to protect human rights are the ones violating it, and that is where it is becoming alarming. Otherwise, Nigerians who are suffering human rights are not suffering it from even government. Most of those who are suffering from private individuals in their homes. The women are telling you about violence against women. The youth are telling you about violence. Violence is not just about brutalization and physical curtailing of human rights.
Cletus Obun, I understand that, but from the data I just put to you, 55% by police and government officials. But we'll come back to that after we take this break, and we'll also take a look at this story as a court has stopped Governor Ganduje from inaugurating Emirate Council. That's in Kano State. We'll bring you more details after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program, and here's our news in brief. The House of Representatives says it will investigate a hospital in Bagada, Lagos State, which allegedly refused to treat a victim of armed robbery attack, Ms. Moradeon Balogun, resulting in her death. The lawmakers say the alleged refusal of medical attention to the victim is a violation of the Compulsory Treatment and Care of Victims of Gunshot Act 2017. They want the police to arrest and prosecute all those involved. Well, let's now rejoin our guests in Abuja. We still have Senate Committee Vice Chairman on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, Senator Okajev, discussing issues around human rights in the country, as well as Honorable Cletus Obu. He's a former lawmaker. Thank you so much for your patience, gentlemen. Now, let me continue with Honorable Cletus Obu. Now, there's widespread criticism of government's handling of human rights. In fact, according to the poll which I quoted earlier on, most Nigerians, that's about 83%, believe that human rights violations is prevalent in the country. So, on one hand, as a member of the ruling party, is that a conversation you're having within the party, on one hand? And what do we hope to expect in the coming days?
Well, let me say this about the outcry about human rights. To say that there are human rights violations is commonplace. It's a universal phenomenon, and Nigeria cannot be operating from space. Having acknowledged that, I want to also state that the worry of this government is not about APC, it is not about PDP, it is not about ordinary Nigerians, it is about our international image as a country. It is about our role in the Committee of Nations concerning the rights of our people and their own internal organization of security as it involves persons. But I will not want to include Showore as part of it. No country on earth, whether it is Tiananmen Square in China, in US during the revolution of then president, the first president of the United States of America. All forms of insurrection and revolution have been resisted by all governments. But in our context today, what is happening to Nigeria now?
If I may, Honorable Obu, if you can hear me, are you justifying what has played out so far regarding Mr. Showore's case? Is that what you're saying?
The Showore's case, for me, I am very certain that first it has been managed by the security agencies, grossly mismanaged, because he is playing. They have played into his hands, and therefore he's hyping it sufficiently. Justification or no justification, nobody will want to dare his country and say that the director of DSS, that is the DSS, will cease to exist on the 5th of August, and then you come back and start discussing him. So displaying him is vexatious, it is destructive, it is dehumanizing. What happened in court was clearly a dramatization and overuse of the DSS. And I think that they have themselves to blame for what happened in that court that day. Because there's no evidence on that tape. So we will have to diagnose and do a forensic analysis of that tape to show who and who were involved in it.
Let me ask Senator Okajev, pardon me, on a final note now. Now, Senator Okajev, another concern for a lot of people is the respect for the rule of law, obedience to court orders, and I mean, it goes on and on. So for your committee, is that something you're looking into? How do we, strengthen our judiciary such that, the laws, the judgments that come out are adhered to strictly?
Yes. Okay. So our responsibility, amongst other things, is to interface with the judiciary to see how, as an arm of government, we can assist them to, carry on their duties and responsibilities in such a way that there are no interferences and they are very well equipped. There's a limit to what we can do in terms of, directly getting them to do things the way we think they should be done, because we take them to be a very responsible arm of government, devoid of politics. The two other arms of government have, the legislature and the executive. So we take them very, very seriously. And so in the course of our interface, we always ask them to let us know how we can be of assistance as an arm of government to assist them in doing their duties without any interference and in the best traditions that the judiciary is held for across the world. But let me just hasten to say to what my friend, I think it should be cold comfort to us that because human rights are abused across the world, we should find comfort when that is happening here. At any given time, any government that is in power, whether it is PDP or APC or any other party at all, Nigerians will hold them responsible for the human rights abuses that are taking place at that particular time. So we should always hold them account, the government in power accountable for whatever inadequacies, whatever infraction and breaches of human rights of our citizens.
I think that's a fine place to leave it. But I'd like to thank you so much, Senator Emmanuel Okajev. He's the Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, as well as Honorable Cletus Obun, a former lawmaker and a member of the APC. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this afternoon. Well, the Senate has resolved to probe the Central Bank of Nigeria and its subsidiary, the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, that's NIBS, over alleged failure to remit 20 trillion naira stamp duties revenue to the Federation account. The resolution follows a motion by Senator Ayo Akinyelure. The lawmakers expressed concern that despite government's decision to appoint a consultant to help it recover the money, the CBN and NIBS have technically refused to comply with the presidential directive for the recovery of over 20 trillion naira into the Federation account. The amount covers stamp duties collected between 2013 and 2016, as well as those collected from 2016, when the CBN officially directed all banks to collect on behalf of the federal government.
The Senate is aware that with immediate effect, after the issuance of the said circular by Central Bank, all deposit money banks, all other financial institutions had commenced charging 50 naira per eligible transactions in accordance with the provision of Stamp Duty Act 2004 and Federal Government Financial Regulation 2009, that is, all receipts given by any bank or other financial institution in acknowledgement of service rendered in respect of electronic transfer and other teller deposits from 1,000 and above. Mr. President, the Senate concerned that despite the federal government action to appoint a consultant with patent right and vast knowledge of stamp duty due to the federal government of Nigeria as stamp duty recovery consultant since 12 October 2017 for recovery of over 20 trillion from Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, NIBSS, to the Federation account in line with the patent right of recovery consultant, Mesa School of Banking Honors and International Investment Law and Arbitration LLC now in force.
I'm sure that's something that will resonate with a lot of Nigerians. Now, to legal matters, a high court in Kano has granted an interim injunction to stop the Kano state government from taking any action on the Kano Emirate's controversy without consulting the current council emirate. And this follows the decision by Governor Abdullahi Ganduje to sign a new law approving the creation of 4 new emirates and the appointment of first-class emirates or emirs this time around for each of them. The law also establishes the Council of Chiefs. Justice Ahmed Badamosi granted the interim order requested by the kingmakers while the main suit continues. The plaintiffs in the suit are 4 Kano kingmakers headed by the Mada King Kano Yusuf Nabahani. The judge then adjourned the case to December the 17th. Well, that's our program for this afternoon, but don't forget you can also watch this episode, watch it, or watch other episodes on our YouTube page. That's at Channels Television. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayode Okikolu.